Castlevania has lots of great fans around the world, and they really love the music of the series. So, this time, let's take a look at Castlevania Bloodlines on the Sega Genesis. This is a great game. In the 16-bit era, Super Castlevania 4 on the Super Nintendo is widely held as the best Castlevania game, and for good reason. But Bloodlines is an amazing entry into the series in its own way. The graphics are awesome, with some exceptional use of the Sega Genesis power. Nearly every stage features special graphical effects that are great to look at, but also provide depth to the gameplay. The controls are familiar to veterans of the series. John Morris, the first protagonist of the game, wields the familiar whip in much the same way the Belmonts did in the NES trilogy. There is also another playable character, Eric Lacard, that carries a spear. Both heroes are fun to control. In terms of story, the game takes place in 1917. The vampire Elizabeth Bartley, niece of Dracula, is planning a war to cause enough loss of human life to resurrect Dracula. That war turns out to be World War I. To prevent Dracula's return, John Morris and his best friend, Eric Lacard, travel all over Europe to confront the forces of evil. This eventually leads to the Castle Proserpina, where the ultimate showdown takes place. This is the first game not to feature a Belmont as the main character. John Morris is the son of Quincy Morris, a character from Bram Stoker's classic novel, Dracula. The official Castlevania timeline states that the events of Bloodlines actually occur after the events of Symphony of the Night. Richter Belmont, after defeating Dracula in Rondo of Blood, went missing. It was revealed in Symphony of the Night that he had been under the control of the Dark Priest, Shaft. After being set free by Alucard, Richter, ashamed of letting Shaft manipulate him, passed on the vampire killer whip to Quincy Morris. John Morris received the whip from his father and vowed to pursue and destroy Dracula. For this installment of the already respected Castlevania series, Michiru Yamane was selected to compose the music. Actually, she was in charge of all the sound content in the game, including the music and the sound effects. Before Bloodlines, Yamane had composed the music for many Konami games, including SD Snatcher, available exclusively in Japan on the MX2 computer, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan on the Game Boy, and a portion of the Rocket Knight Adventures score on the Sega Genesis. Yamane had proven that she was a proficient musician with many different systems. Konami gave the assignment for the one and only Castlevania game on the Genesis to her, and she didn't disappoint. In listening to the score of this game, it's clear that Yamane uses many different kinds of music as inspiration in her work. There's a definite progressive rock vibe for the music in the first stage of the game entitled Reincarnated Soul. The series has been known for great upbeat music for the first stage, and this is no exception. In an interview with Game Developer Magazine in 2006, Yamane was asked what type of music she listens to. She responded, "In the rock category, Dream Theater. I'd love to collaborate with them someday." Dream Theater is a very popular progressive rock band in America, and they've earned a devoted fan base in Japan as well. Stages 2 and 3 feature rocking bass lines. Stage 2's music in particular, which is called The Sinking Old Sanctuary, is written to sound like a bass guitar, and it's no secret that the Genesis is known for great bass sounds. Stage 3 uses the bass register in a different way. This work features more unusual and more uncommon effects in the bass, made more potent by creative use of stereo separation throughout. This track also uses more dissonant harmonies to give the music a darker atmosphere. Stage 3's music is entitled The Discolored Wall. Stage 4's music brings back the progressive rock sound, along with another staple of the Castlevania music tradition, the organ. The organ typically carries with it the connotation of sacred Christian music. Pipe organs, and in smaller and less wealthy churches, an electronic organ, are still used in Christian services in a wide variety of denominations. The use of this instrument is no coincidence. The Belmont clan is associated with the church in many games of the series. And speaking of references to the church, the title of the final stage, Stage 6's music, is Calling from Heaven. This track retains the driving rhythms and rapidly moving middle layers that help push the player to the final battle with Dracula. The music of Bloodlines is great throughout. The mini-boss music, called Messenger of the Devil, features driving rhythms in a 6-beat meter. And its companion piece, heard when you battle the boss at the end of each stage, is called The Six Servants of the Devil. This track features lots of quick scalar runs and more use of rhythmic noise. The piece that I want to discuss in more depth is the music of Stage 5, entitled The Prayer of a Tragic Queen. Let's take a listen. The piece can be heard as the player faces the dangers of Versailles Palace in France. The music has a transparent influence from the Baroque era. I've mentioned in previous episodes that the history of music is typically divided into 6 eras or style periods. The Baroque took place from about 1600, when Italian composer Claudio Monteverdi came to prominence, until 1750, which is the year that German composer Johann Sebastian Bach died. Many Italian and German composers contributed significantly to the Baroque, and most college courses that discuss the Baroque spend most of their time discussing them. But France featured a number of very popular and influential composers of that time, including François Couperin and Jean-Philippe Rameau. French music is largely tied to the events that occurred in Versailles Palace. King Louis XIV built Versailles as an unparalleled and magnificent place. There, he used music to create an atmosphere of courtly opulence, to emphasize his own enormous power and wealth. Baroque music can sound opulent or even pretentious to some listeners. A lot of Baroque music utilizes embellishments of melodic pitches that we call ornamentations. Think of ornamentations as effects applied to certain notes. There are several ornaments that can be applied to notes in a piece of music, and one favorite of the Baroque composers is called a mordent. A mordent is notated like this, and Yamane used this ornamentation here. The mordent is a very fast alternation between a pitch and the pitch beneath it. Let's try to hear the mordent in this piece's melody. The courtly elegance of a Baroque work really fits this level well. The grandeur of the palace can really be seen at the beginning of the stage when John or Eric battles monsters with the palace in the background. Yamane herself was very knowledgeable with the Baroque style. In the same 2006 interview that I mentioned earlier, she said, "When I was at university, my thesis was based on the music of Bach. Johann Sebastian Bach is the most well-known and influential composer of the Baroque era." Bach is mostly known as a master of counterpoint. Counterpoint is a way of writing music that emphasizes the melodic line and how multiple melodies combine to form harmonies. Most music that we listen to features one melodic line and chords underneath that melody. We call this homophonic music. Bach and his contemporaries created their music in a very different way. Every voice or instrument in a Bach piece is interesting by itself. Each melody is carefully controlled to ensure a smooth and consistent sound. When these carefully crafted melodies come together, we are treated to some of the most beautiful music ever written. We call this style of writing polyphonic. It's easy to see why Yamane developed an interest in this style of music. Her study of Bach and other Baroque composers helped create a fitting and evocative score for this Genesis masterpiece. I'll also mention that Bach, a German composer, wrote 6 French suites in his career. These suites are collections of dances in which he imitates the particular style of French composers. Another bold aspect of this score is the use of melodies from previously released games in the series. Before facing Dracula near the end of the game, players are treated to this arrangement of Simon Belmont's theme that you're hearing in the background. Additionally, if you go to the options menu on the title screen, then set 05 in the BGM slot and 073 in the SE slot and press start, you can hear tunes from the original NES trilogy when your character gets a fully powered up weapon. These works have been rearranged by Yamane, and they are very nice, taking advantage of the Genesis' great sound chips. These tracks are much appreciated by longtime fans of the series. Yamane went on to write a number of scores in the Castlevania series, including Symphony of the Night. I did an episode on that tremendous score last Halloween, and I'll leave a link below if you want to check that out. She also worked on Aria of Sorrow with Takashi Yoshida and Soshiro Hokai, Dawn of Sorrow with Masahiko Kimura, Portrait of Ruin with the incredible Yuzo Koshiro, and Order of Ecclesia with Yasuhiro Ichihashi. She wrote the entire scores for Lament of Innocence and Curse of Darkness. I guess it's safe to say that Konami was pleased with her music in Bloodlines. If you would like to listen to any of the music in this fantastic game, you can find every track, including the remix versions of older tunes, in the options menu as BGM. No official soundtrack was released on CD or any other format, but YouTube and other streaming services should satisfy your curious ear. There are 2 tracks from Bloodlines that are featured in the Castlevania 20th Anniversary Premium Music Collection that was given to those who pre-ordered Portrait of Ruin on the Nintendo DS. The game itself is fairly easy to find on auction sites and isn't nearly as pricey as the Super Nintendo Castlevania games. Note that if you live in Europe, this game is called Castlevania: The New Generation. As of the taping of this video, none of the major 3 consoles download services feature this game, so you're going to need to buy the original cartridge. I hope you take the time to play this great Sega Genesis classic. It's easily one of the best games on the system and stands proudly alongside other beloved games in the franchise. If you like this video, I hope you take the time to press the like button and subscribe to my channel if you want to check out more of my videos. Also, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this game's music and any other video game music that you enjoy in the comments section below. Thanks for watching.